I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James Whitefield, Yates Meanekeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
You have me? Am I muted? Why am I muted? What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another edition of the Pats Daily Podcast, powered by PrizePicks and Game Time. More from them later, a ton more from them later. Make sure you stay tuned for mine and Taylor's weekly PrizePicks towards the end of the show. A little inside baseball here from me and Taylor. What we're going to try and do every week now that it is week 1 of the NFL season. Every week, we're going to bring you a optimistic view on Thursdays of how the Patriots can beat their opponent, especially because, look, let's face it. We've talked about it. Taylor's eating seaweed. This team's not. This Patriots team is not one of the best in football. Their roster is poor. It's potentially a bottom 5. And frankly, both locally and nationally, there's not a ton of optimism around this team. But as some of the more optimistic people in the region on the beat.
People? Did you say people? You and me?
I guess Taylor's a lot more optimistic than me. Sometimes I'm there. Sometimes I'm on the other side.
You mellow me out. You play
that's
a crucial
fair.
role.
I mend the fence, I think, between the pessimism and the optimism for the team. But we're going to use Taylor as our main focus here to figure out how the Patriots can win these games. Because, as I tweeted earlier, and as you know, it's a movie title and it's a saying around all of football. Anything can happen on any given Sunday, and I truly believe that. And I don't just believe it; it's a fact. You see upsets happen all the time in college, in the pros. Like, these are all professional athletes, and if it's done right, these teams, any team, can beat any other team on any given Sunday. So that's how we're going to treat our Thursday game previews. How the Patriots can beat their opponent, and this week, of course, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. Another sort of, I guess, housekeeping item, how we're going to do this here throughout the week. Now that we have our game weeks, just kind of tell you guys our schedule. We'll tweet it out as well, and you guys will kind of see how it moves through. But Wednesdays will be a mailbag. Thursdays will be this game preview on how the Patriots beat their opponent. Fridays, we're going to have an opponent guest on to do some key matchups. And then Sundays, we'll have our pre and post games and go from there. Then Mondays, we'll have something quick. And then Tuesdays, we'll have a film review. And then we'll be back around and we'll kind of review each game and go from there. So that's kind of where we're at now in our weekly Pats Daily schedule as we get into it. So, Taylor, let's kick it off. How the heck do these Patriots beat the Bengals? We're going to use Taylor's keys to the game that he writes up on CLNSmedia.com as well as kind of a guide for this. And then I'll give my opinion and I'll throw some stuff out there as well. But to start us off, Taylor, what is the number one key how the Patriots can upset the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday out in Cincy?
I'm just going to say one quick thing before we get into this. Have you ever seen someone sneeze on live TV?
Oh, man.
'Cause I just sneezed and muted myself, and I was like, if I was on a set and I had to sneeze, what would I do? Like, would I get it would look weird. And I'm like, I've never seen what the etiquette is.
Yeah,
if you have to
I don't know.
during a live broadcast.
I know when you're like, if you're on like a broadcast, they have a cough button and it's basically just your mute button and you put that whenever you got to do something. But that's on like radio. That's not TV when there's something on you. Like, you just got to hold it in, I guess.
We got to talk to Tom Curran and see.
Yeah, we got to find that out.
Doing it long enough. Okay, so keys to the game. Broad overview real quick. Just things they need to do, kind of like housekeeping notes. One thing, really, it's the offense is going to be obviously the focal point here. Last season, especially, turnovers, penalties, self-inflicted wounds. Those were a theme for the Patriots. And as bad as they were, there were plenty of times last season where you saw that they had a chance to win games. They just couldn't get it done. So a big key for me, especially after seeing the preseason where they struggled. I think they had 6 or 8 penalties against the Eagles, and everyone's like, it's got to get cleaned up. They also got penalized a ton in joint practices. The next week against the Panthers. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It was against, oh my God, I'm getting the schedule mixed up. Oh, moving so fast. It was the Panthers.
Panthers, then Eagles, yeah.
Eagles, everything was a lot better in the game. And we're thinking, okay, like Gerard Mayo got on his guys. We're improving. Next week against the Commanders, it's like 3 times as many penalties. It was 18 that they were called for, not even that were accepted, just an absolutely obscene number. That can't happen. Those are going to be some things I'm really keyed in on. Also, just pre-snap operation, like Jacoby Brissett, making sure everybody gets out of the huddle. and everything is done efficiently. Most of that was really Drake May, where we would see some of those issues, but even sometimes Jacoby Brissett, you'd see at times, they'd have to reset or there would be some kind of issue. So I just want to see the operation look clean. I want to see no penalties, no self-inflicted wounds pretty much. And then also Gerard Mayo, just to see how he handles a live exhibition game, not exhibition game, but a live game in the NFL where things matter. And the game time decisions where if you have a late game situation where you need to make some, decisions on things that go to a head coach, not necessarily a coordinator, how he handles those. And then we'll get into some of the other more specific ones, but really I just want to see them play a clean game. Gerard Mayo said himself, this isn't a team that can beat themselves. There aren't a whole lot of teams or really any teams that can, but the Patriots, as one of the weaker offenses in the NFL, really cannot afford it. So I just want them to play some clean football and then see if they're able to hang with what's obviously a very high-powered Bengals offense and a very aggressive and well-coached Bengals defense.
That part you mentioned, the game time or those game decisions, right, is so crucial and something you can't really replicate. Like even talking with DeMarcus Covington down in Foxborough today, he mentioned that he feels ready because although he hasn't called a regular season game, he spent all summer watching games and pretending to call the game as it went through. Now, first of all, sicko. Second of all, a good idea in the grand scheme of things because he was kind of asked how he did it, and it went, offense calls a play. What would you run against that coverage? Offense runs a play. And even if they ran a different coverage, you just align yourself to what the next down distance is and kind of go from there. But you can't really replicate that stuff. Actually, you just kind of have to get thrown into the fire and see how it gets done. And so Mayo mentioned earlier this offseason, Evan Rothstein, the quarterback's coach, he's going to rely on him as sort of his, I'm paraphrasing here, but like his analytics guru and someone who's going to be in his ear and help with those third down, fourth down decision-making stuff. The other thing too,
Adams a little bit.
Exactly. His mini little Ernie Adams. That's exactly what it is. And that'll probably come in play too with when to call timeouts, before there's small things that you can't replicate. It's, we're going to call this timeout before the 2-minute warning. Or we can call it after the 2-minute warning. How much time do we need here? How much time do we need there? Belichick talked about it in the 28-3 Super Bowl comeback where he knew they had X amount of time and X amount of drives to make up X amount of points. And that's all going in his head at a mile a minute. Like you need to be ready and be able to see that. Like, it's just not just going to come to you first game. So I'm very curious. I think this is why it's such a, longer term rebuild, because you can't expect a first year head coach to come in and do it and be successful right away. And it happens, but oftentimes you kind of got to take your licks and roll with the punches. So that's sort of the overview, Taylor. But key matchup number one, I think this one's fairly obvious. I'll turn it over to you, but I'll sort of intro it. The Bengals have Joe Burrow, they have T. Higgins, and they have Marr Chase. Now, Marr Chase was back at practice today, a limited participant according to the injury report. I assume if he's out there, he's going to play. I think this is sort of a sign that they're getting an inch closer. I was listening to Mike Petraglia and Alex Barth on the Sports Hub podcast the other day, and Trags basically said, this tells me that he's going to go out there and he's going to play. So I'll take Trags for his word. So that big three is out there. The key to that is don't let them take over. How do they do that? How don't they let those three get the massive chunk plays that this offense is predicated on?
So Marr Chase and T. Higgins, obviously two guys that are big, they're fast, they're physical, they're great at the catch point, and they can line up all over the field. So I think the biggest thing, like when they played in 2022, the Patriots played a very conservative defensive game plan because they had Marcus Jones and John Jones on the outside and Miles Bryant in the slot. So, of course, those guys just don't match up size-wise. It's difficult at the catch point because they can't quite get up there. So what the Patriots did was they basically played off coverage to invite the Bengals to throw underneath. This did work. The Bengals only had 3 explosive completions. 2 were with Marcus Jones against T. Higgins. I don't think we're going to see that this week. Hopefully we don't see that this week. And then 1 was to Trenton Irwin against cover 2. That you can kind of scrap that because it was a very different situation than what we're probably going to see. So today I asked DeMarcus Covington, well, now that you have Christian Gonzalez, do you think it'll allow you to be a little bit more aggressive? I didn't really expect him to go into the game plan or anything, but I was curious what he would say. And he did mention that he trusts all those guys to play man coverage. And I'll say John Jones, he kind of got close to giving up an explosive play, but for the most part, he's competitive against bigger guys because he is really sound technique-wise. He's competitive. He plays through the catch point, and he's just a really smart player. So I'm not really nervous if he has to get matched up with either one of these guys outside. And if he does struggle, you have Alex Austin, you have Marco Wilson, maybe even Isaiah Bolden, if they decide to activate him from the practice squad, just guys who have size that can kind of bulk up and give you a little bit more advantage in that respect. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Christian Gonzalez and how he gets deployed. Now, the way I see it, there's pretty much three ways they can use him. They can have, their number one go against the Bengals' number one, because as good as T. Higgins is, he's Robin. Jamar Chase is Batman. Jamar Chase is a top 5 receiver, one of the best players, period, in the NFL. They can put Christian Gonzalez on him and say best on best. Then, maybe we bracket T. Higgins or show him more attention. Or they decide to go with one of the really old school Bill Belichick philosophies where you say, hey, we're going to put Christian Gonzalez on T. Higgins because that's your number 2. This is our number 1. Joe Burrow probably isn't going to go to him, although Higgins is still a good player. I think that Burrow will try to test that matchup maybe a couple times, just see what happens in some critical situations. And then you bracket Jamar Chase, or however you want to deal with it. Basically, just take him out of the progression because schematically you're committing extra attention. And with Joe Burrow, like DeMarcus Covington said, Burrow's going to find the open man. Right. Tom Brady's not going to look at a guy who's bracketed unless it's like Gronk, and it's a critical situation. And you're just like, I trust this guy to make a play.
Yeah.
So in those situations, maybe you bracket him just to try to force Joe Burrow to go somewhere else. Or the third option is what the Patriots did in last season's opener against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You put Christian Gonzalez on the boundary. So anytime it's a 3-by-1 formation, he kind of shift coverage to the other side of the field. The Patriots don't do a ton of that because they play so much too high and cover 2. That's not really so much a thing. Right. But either way, in those isolated matchups where you really expect he's going to have space to work with, you decide, hey, whether it's T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, I'm going to put my guy there. What also makes this difficult is the fact that these guys, like I said, especially Jamar Chase, we talked to Joe Goodberry about this in an episode that's dropping tomorrow. A lot of great context in that. Make sure you check it out. But Jamar Chase plays a lot in the slot as well. So if you want to go with the regular Patriots motto where the slot corner is the slot corner, do you really want Marcus Jones going against Jamar Chase? I personally don't. So there's different permutations and things to take into consideration. But what I think would be the best plan is Christian Gonzalez against T. Higgins. Then you try to scheme Jamar Chase out of the progressions. It's still difficult because you've got a lot of other good depth receivers for the Bengals. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But at the end of the day, you want to make an offense play left-handed. And if Joe Burrow can't confidently go to T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, that's going to be huge for the Patriots in limiting what is obviously a very explosive passing attack. So if you can just keep those guys under 100 yards each, I think that will go a huge way in keeping this game at least competitive enough for the offense to have a chance late in the fourth quarter.
100%. And I think you look at it too, where yes, the Bengals on paper, and really just more than on paper on the field, are a better team than the Patriots. And so when we're trying to find ways to win and how they do it, well, you got to shut out what is their bread and butter, which is that offense and that passing game. Well, the Patriots' arguably best unit on their team is their secondary, with 2 solid safeties who can work in coverage as well as the boundary. And then obviously you have Christian Gonzalez and the rest of them. But I think you're right. I like that idea of take out the second guy. You don't need to worry about T. Higgins with Christian Gonzalez. And then you can kind of throw everything else. You can throw the book at Jamar Chase in a bunch of different ways. You can press him. You can pull off. You can bring guys over the top. You can bracket it. Like, you can do all those sorts of things. And that just makes life that much harder for Joe Burrow, who, first of all, is coming off an injury and hasn't played football in a long time. And you mix that with a guy in Jamar Chase, who we talk about has been holding out and hasn't been in practice. Now, look, I think he's gotten his work in. I think he's in shape. And I think if they needed him to, he could play the entire game on Sunday. Will they work him back in slowly? We'll have to wait and see. But taking advantage of that and taking advantage of the fact that him and Burrow might not have gotten as much work in as they want to this summer, it is a massive sort of wrinkle to this whole thing and how they can shut that unit down.
And a couple other things. One, Joe Goodberry did tell us that Burrow basically hinted that he and Jamar Chase have been putting in work behind the scenes. Like, they're best friends, they're college teammates. I'm not worried about their chemistry. It was really more of a question of how much is Jamar going to play. But if he's been working out, like Joe Goodberry told us, then I think that there's less concern about how much he's going to play. Excuse me. See, what would I do?
How do you cough on live TV?
I don't know. I seriously need to ask Tom, because if this ever happens, I'm screwed. But
I think you either just roll with it, or when you're in that setting, like this is more laid back than NBC Sports Boston is. So like you're not even thinking about coughing or hiccuping or doing it. Imagine you had the hiccups. Oh,
dude, if I ever got the hiccups, I would just have to leave. I would just have to leave. One more thing, because I'm going to give myself side. I already got myself side.
Yeah, get it.
Another thing is the Patriots, like everybody always talks about using cover one double, which obviously was popularized because there was that mic'd up episode, I forget what it was, where Bill Belichick was talking to Chad Ochocinco, and he said that he was playing one double 85, which is a play in the Patriots playbook where, legitimately, if there's one guy you want to take away, you commit your post safety help to that guy. Mm-hmm. The Patriots don't play that nearly as much as people think they do. It's very rarely used. One of the times I saw it most often, or them just using some type of actual bracket, was against Marr Chase's teammate in college, Justin Jefferson, back in 2022. One of the only times I've seen Belichick in recent, times legitimately say, no, this guy scares the crap out of me. We have to show extra attention to him. I think he did it to DeAndre Hopkins as well that season. But those are like two of the only occasions I've really seen them lean into it. So this could be one of those days where we see them say, you know what, we really have to make sure that Marr Chase doesn't take this over. We trust you, Gonzo, but we got to limit them. But either way, I think if either of those strategies work, you double one guy, and then you trust Gonzo on the other, as long as Gonzo plays the way we expect him to, that's upset alert, because then the Bengals, their run game, I'm not very scared of, because their line isn't very good, especially when it comes to really in general, but their interior specifically. And the Patriots on the edges, you got Anthony Jennings and Jelani Tavai, and the Bengals don't run outside that much anyway. So I think if you can limit those two guys, it's going to go a huge way. But whatever the plan is, it's going to be fascinating, because you don't really see two receivers like this very often, where they have everything that you want in outside and inside targets.
Right. All right. Before we get to our first ad read, I got to pull up this comment from the chat since we're live on air. LOL at Pats beating Bengals. First of all, Patriots dynasty. You're supposed to be a Patriots fan. Second of all, if you listen from the top of the show, and I'll reiterate it now if people haven't been, in the show the entire time, what we're doing here with these Thursday episodes as our game preview is we're going to outline a plan for how the Patriots can give themselves the best chance to win against and beat their opponent, because of how I don't want to say how bad, because the season hasn't started yet, but how the expectations for the team are very low right now. So we want to give an optimistic look at how they can do it, because as I said before, any given Sunday, these are all professionals. You make the right adjustments, you limit mistakes and all that, and all those cliches mixed with some matchup, things that you can do against their offense, your defense, etc. There's a way to win. So I know that Pat's dynasty is probably just chirping and not being real, but there's a way that they can do this, even if I don't think they're going to, even if Taylor might think they're going to. Like, I don't think the Patriots are going to win this game. We'll get to that towards the end of the show.
Really either.
But there's a way. So.
And also, the Patriots played the Bengals close. They only lost by 4 points, and Ramondre Stevenson fumbled in the low red zone. And Jacoby Brissett's team blew out the Bengals in 2022. The running game was a big part of that, but Jacoby had almost a perfect game. So let's not make it seem like the Bengals are this unbeatable juggernaut. Like, they're a very good team, but at the same time, they played them close with the staff that they have now and with the team that they had that I would argue was worse in 2022, because Mac wasn't what he was now. But I still like Jacoby better as someone who's comfortable in the offense he's in. And I still do like Demario Douglas, KJ Osborne, Jalen Polk. Mm-hmm. I like that combination better than I like the group that they had back then. But yeah, bottom line, I just don't think it's as crazy to think that the Patriots will even be competitive as it is that people were kind of making it out to me.
But I had this point written down, and I was going to try and squeeze it in somewhere as we went through it. But the Bengals haven't started hot the last couple of years. Like, the Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow teams start slow. I think Trags had it. Like, they're 1-9 in the first 2 weeks of the season in the first 5 years or something. I might be wrong. That might be wrong. But they've started fourth. It's something like that. They've started seasons 1-1, 0-2. They haven't been great to start years. Now, they hit the ground running later on. They went to the Super Bowl. They went to the AFC title game, things like that. So if you're going to play the Bengals, you want to get them now. New team with the Patriots. Nobody knows what you guys do yet, mixed with Burrow coming up. All this stuff that we've talked about. If they have a chance to beat the Bengals this year, week 1 seems like the best place to do it. All right, Taylor. Quick words from our friends over at PrizePicks, because the NFL is back tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike the other apps, it's just you against the numbers. And all you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Right now on PrizePicks, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on PrizePicks. And it's not just tonight. It's not just this weekend. It's every week in September. So literally you make your lineup and you just throw a Caleb Williams if you want to like get the odds up. Put Caleb Williams in for more than 1 passing yard. Unless they bench him for Tyson Bagent, he's going to get 1 passing yard. Unless, God forbid, something that happened to Aaron Rodgers happens to Caleb this year, that's gonna hit. So throw that in your thing. Me and Taylor are going to give our prize picks at the end of the show. So make sure to tune in for all of that on what we think is going to happen in the Patriots game. We're obviously going to throw Caleb in there. But PrizePicks, again, it's the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance as well. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So it's the perfect way to have some fun. Again, we'll give our picks later. But I actually, you know what, Taylor? I'll read mine now because I already set one up. Okay. For Bengals Chiefs tonight, I got Pat Mahomes more than 271 passing yards. I have Zay Flowers more than 54.5 receiving yards. And I have Derrick Henry to score more than half a touchdown. A lot of mores. A lot of stuff's going to happen tonight. But Pat goes crazy. BC Zay Flowers goes crazy. Derrick Henry punches it in the end zone, and you win on PrizePicks. So download the app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And we always have to fix our boxes. And I don't know why, but we can get our brand back up as we go. Because like I said, Taylor, this is a free-flowing conversation. And as we talked about last night.
Everything is normal. Everything is fine.
Well, when we pre-record, you have Amit go in and see, there he is. He's back there. He's doing his thing. Unless that was you, because that definitely wasn't me. But regardless, that's PrizePicks. I mentioned my picks for tonight's game. I'm going to tweet that out later as well, so you guys can all follow along and get that going that way. All right, let's get back to Patriots keys to beating the Bengals, because again, there is a way that they can do this. So your number two key on how the Patriots can get a win on Sunday, Taylor.
So my number 2 key has to do with controlling the line of scrimmage, which is a big point that Gerard Mayo emphasized when he talked to us. It was one of the first points of emphasis. And it sounds cliche, but cliches exist for a reason, because they make sense. Now, for the Patriots offensive line, obviously that is going to be much easier said than done. Obviously, Mike Nwenu, not the best at tackle. I don't love this fit there, but he's still good. Like, he's not going to get your quarterback hit the vast majority of the time, and he is still a dominant run blocker in the right schemes. Layden Robinson beside him, I do have some optimism there. 2 weeks ago against the Commanders, pad level really was an issue, and it got him put on skates a couple times. That can't happen the way it did in that last preseason game, because it led to some pretty disastrous outcomes. But for the most part, he had a strong summer, and it's the reason that he was competing with City So. Plus, I've been wanting to see Layden Robinson next to Mike Nwenu since Layden Robinson was drafted. So, in that vein, I think there's some optimism, especially because I think the run game is where the Patriots are going to have to lean into if they have any shot at staying competitive with this Bengals team. They cannot get one-dimensional because they simply don't have the weaponry. Everybody knows that. And then David Andrews, of course. I have to throw him in there. Gerard Mayo called him out, mentioned that he's one of the toughest players he's ever been around. We all know that David Andrews, as good as they come, especially as a run-blocking center. He finished last season as one of the best run-blocking interior linemen, I think, period. And this season, we really haven't seen any drop-off from him in that area. Although I will say it's a bit concerning that Nick Leverett has been rotating at center as much as he has. I don't want to read too much into it, but at the same time, it's like David Andrews is getting up there in age, so you wonder if maybe they're going to be rotating him just to make sure that he's not taking too many snaps early on. I don't know, but I think that's at least notable that we have seen a lot of Leverett at center. But the real question mark is on the left side, where Chuks Okorafor is now at left tackle because Vidarian Lowe is unlikely to play. He's dealing with an abdominal injury. City So wasn't even on the practice field. He hasn't practiced since suffering an ankle injury in the preseason finale. Looks like it's actually going to be either just Michael Jordan or a combination of Michael Jordan and Nick Leverett. Those guys have been rotating beside Chuks Okorafor at left guard next to David Andrews. But really, Jordan seems like he's been the one in practice who's taking the top reps. And then even when Nick Leverett rotates in, it feels like he's not getting quite as many.
Right.
So obviously, ring-a-ding-ding, you're probably going to get a practice squad elevation for Michael Jordan. I need to look at his preseason tape a little bit closer. I do think it's interesting. He does give you more size, than Nick Leverett does, and I also think he's a pretty good athlete. But still, Nick Leverett seemed like their top backup for the interior period, so I was a little bit confused by why that is exactly. I guess we'll see on Sunday what exactly the plan was. But if the Patriots can control the line of scrimmage in the run game, and then in the pass game, obviously, you got to stay out of obvious passing situations if possible. And if you do, it can't be long yardage because you cannot drop back and let Trey Hendrickson, the headliner of this Bengals defensive front, just take Chuks Okorafor to town. Chuks had over twice as high of a pressure rate allowed on the left side this preseason than he did on the right. Small sample size, but it goes to show that he's clearly more comfortable on one than the other. You can give him chip help. You can, get extra blockers. You can get play action, quick game, whatever. But if the Bengals take away Jacoby Brissett's first read, that's all Trey Hendrickson needs to get home. So these guys really need to be able to lean on the ground game and be unpredictable with their offense. Other side of the ball, Patriots defensive line. O'Shane Ximines actually was a full participant today. That's huge. Joshua Uche is still limited with the foot injury. He dealt with a foot injury last year as well. So maybe you get a little bit more on the edge because I'm not super confident in the edge rushing group. Now, Dietrich Wise did have a really strong preseason. And both of his sacks actually had 2 sacks and like 15 pass rushes, which is pretty ridiculous. But, goes to show the wily vet. If he plays on the edge and then maybe have O'Shane Ximines on the other side, I think that's decent in obvious passing situations. But really, I think the key will be Keion White and then a little bit of Dietrich Wise on the inside.
Get them inside. Hell yeah. Yep.
That's where Keion White was gangbusters this preseason. Dietrich Wise took the Bengals interior to town back in 2022, was literally throwing guys around. And that interior is the same. It's still Cordell Volson, still old friend Ted Karras, who is still one of the better centers in football. But, if you get any pass rusher one-on-one on a center, it's usually not going to go in your favor. Right. And then Alex Kappa as well. Kappa and Volson were 2 of the worst pass blocking guards in football last season, basically bottom 10 or bottom 12 in pretty much every metric. So you're hoping that Keion White, Dietrich Wise, maybe even get O'Shane Ximines in some pass rush situations to really attack and exploit those guys, because Orlando Brown's not a great player, but he's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's solid. And Trent Brown, if he's locked in, we know what he can do. You're really not going to beat Trent Brown very often. So if they can put the pocket in Burrow's lap a little bit, I think that's going to be a major key. And then just be disciplined on the edges. Don't go inside and give Burrow an escape hatch where he can scramble and make big plays when you actually have good coverage on the back end. So again, it's cliche, but it's true. If the Patriots can push the pocket, and then the run defense, I think that kind of goes without saying.
Yeah.
The Bengals have never really been a very good run game under Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. And the Patriots have an elite run defense that didn't lose any of its key players. So just to acknowledge that, I don't think they're going to have any trouble there.
That's the one matchup where the Patriots get an undoubted W is their run defense against the Bengals. Everything else, Bengals probably have the edge, but there's ways to get there. And the one
game on both sides are the advantages for the Patriots.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wanted to kind of get to that and hammer that home too on that side on that side. No, you're good, but just on the interior pressure, like again, you look at Cincy's tackles, and it's Orlando Brown, Trent Brown, and Amarius Mims, who's coming back from injury, but I think he was limited again today as well. But we'll see that he's a rookie. But it's Trent Brown, and like you said, it's week 1, a little motivation for Trent against the Patriots. That whole thing, like he's probably going to be fine out there. Orlando Brown can do his thing, and the Patriots pass rushers on the outside from the edge obviously lose a step without Matthew Judon taking away one side, and then you kind of go to the other side. When it was Judon, he was kind of freeing up Josh Uche. They were working off each other. Now it's Uche Ximines. It's all kind of B players instead of an A player. So that's why you want to bring it up the middle against that interior, and you have Dietrich Wise, who you already mentioned it, wreaked havoc against them last time. And Keion White is basically Dietrich Wise Jr. in my opinion right now. He's someone who can line up everywhere, outside, inside, and get after the quarterback. So I'm looking forward to see how that can help disrupt the Bengals passing game along with the defensive backs, like you mentioned. But on offense, it's all about running the ball to me. You said it, but like I think of it in kind of not mirroring it, but pairing it with the pass game. You need to run the ball in this game to even give yourself a chance to establish a pass or run a play action play. Because if you go down early and you're just asking Jacoby to drop back 4 or 5 wide, you're screwed. Like, this game's over from the start, and you need to establish it early. You need Ramondre to go. And I look at those Alex Van Pelt offenses ran through Nick Chubb in Cleveland the last couple seasons, and that's how they succeeded, was through that run game. Then they pair the pass off of it. Jacoby needs to know where he's going to go with the ball pretty much ASAP, and I think that's why it's better for him to start the season early, because he's familiar with the game and he knows where to go and he knows how to get through his reads quickly than someone like Drake May, who will likely be more willing to improvise against the defense who's going to get after him with these pressure packages. So you got to run the football. You got to use – what'd you say?
That'll be our next.
Yeah, which we're going to get to.
I do have one more thing that I did forget to mention.
Yeah.
So the Bengals had a lot of success against the Bengals run game, and the Bengals haven't had a good run defense. They were one of the worst in the league last year, bottom 10 in EPA per play and positive EPA rate allowed. Basically just consistency and explosiveness. They weren't very good at either last year. But the Bengals playing in the opener last year, they ran left a ton. They didn't always actually go that direction. A lot of it was either directed to the left or cutting back left towards Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is one of the most prolific pass rushers in the NFL, and he has been even going back to when he was with the Saints. He is not a good run defender. Most of the guys on this Bengals offensive or defensive line aren't very good run defenders. Like Sheldon Rankins, a guy that David Andrews mentioned multiple times when we talked to him. Don't sleep on him. Yep. The Patriots were interested in him in the offseason. Really explosive, big, and nimble guy. Like, he's a fun player to watch, but he's not a very good run defender because he's very aggressive. Sometimes he'll just shoot gaps, and if you're patient like Ramondre is, like Antonio Gibson is, then you can still exploit the fact there's a massive gap if you just don't let the big bowling ball in the backfield take you out. And then BJ Hill, solid player, but not really one of those guys that you focus on in a game plan or you lose sleep over. Sam Hubbard, fine player. I'm not really worried about him against Mike and Wendy. So I think it's going to be a lot of runs that either go towards or cut back left. Again, take advantage of Trey Hendrickson. I just think the run game is the best way to go in this plan. And Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson looked really good in this wide zone scheme this summer. Gerard Mayo has mentioned that he really likes what he's seen from the run game, going back to training camp, but also how they progressed. So they've expressed a lot of confidence in this ground game. Now they're going to get a chance to prove it.
We will wrap our Patriots versus Bengals, how to beat Cincy, up in just a few minutes. We'll give a couple more keys to the game, and then we'll give you our prize picks for the week. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Game Time, because if you're in the Cincinnati area, you can go to the game at Paycor Stadium. You can get in for as little as $109 at Game Time. So make sure you go check it out right now. I'm looking at the app right now again. The lowest is $109. Game Time is the best and easiest way to get tickets with your lowest price guarantee. They have a new feature as well called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite team play even easier. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals on seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through those thousands of tickets. Like I said, you go into the app right now. They have super deals, amazing deals, great deals, and right now you can get in, again, to Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati for Pats vs. Bengals on Sunday for as little as $109. Thanks to the Game Time app. Make sure you go check it out. They also don't just do sporting events. They do concerts. They do theater events, comedy, and more. So make sure to go to PrizePicks for your next event if you're going to go see one. So head over there today. Again, use PrizePicks. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Apparently, Paycor is an HR and payroll solutions place. I'd never heard of them in my life.
Me either, Taylor.
I didn't even know it was called Paycor Stadium.
I don't know why I knew it was called Paycor Stadium, but I did know it was called Paycor Stadium. Maybe it was
Brown Stadium.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just named after the owner, and then they
did not want the team to be named after him, and they were like, "Oh yeah, sure, okay."
Yeah, right.
We talked about this. The Browns. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of the Browns. Damn it, the same family. God,
same family. To the chat, the price dropped $30 overnight. Yes, it did. Thanks to Game Time, because Game Time has the best tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Specta Des, that's your name. So yeah, go over to Game Time. Fly out to Cincy. It's probably cheap. You can get out there. You could drive. You could take the train. You could do whatever. Download Game Time with code CLNS, and you will get a nice little treat on the Game Time app. And that is a cheap ticket to go to Patriots versus Bengals.
Love a little treat.
Yeah, I don't know why I called it a treat, but I'm kind of
treats are good. People like treats. Dogs like treats. My cat likes treats.
What's your cat's name?
Her name is Teakle. We call her Teakle. It's so the show Young Justice. It's for comic book nerds. If you watch Young Justice, there's this guy called Clarin the Witch Boy. He's like a demon, and his like anchor is a cat named Teakle. And then when we were going to get a cat, Liz and I watched it together. I introduced her to her, and we were hooked. And when we were getting a cat, I was like, "We got to name her Tickle because we bought it." And now, yeah,
adorable.
Although she doesn't answer to it, she has like a million nicknames. And she doesn't respond to her actual name anymore.
That's so funny. All right, it's 5:44. We have 16 minutes before the Patriots beat guys come on at 6 p.m. So make sure if you're watching us, stay tuned on here and hang out with Alex and Brian. They'll give their takes on Pats Bengals this Sunday. But we're gonna give a few more keys to the game, how the Pats can beat the Bengals. We will give our prize picks for the game, and then we'll wrap it up there. So Taylor, you gave 3 keys to the game on CLNSmedia.com. The first one was don't let the big 3 take over. The second one was to control the line of scrimmage. And number 3 is have answers for defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo's pressure packages for that Bengals defense. Break it down for us. Let's hear why that is a key to the game.
Yeah, so one of the other things that Mayo really stressed was the fact that Lou Anarumo's defense sends pressure from all over the place, and you really don't know where it's coming from. They blitz off the slot. I was watching, they'll send the slot and they'll send a safety, so you got like the pocket collapsing. I don't think they're going to do that against Brissett. Really, they do that against more mobile quarterbacks, but really it just speaks to the flexibility of their pressure packages. And when Jacoby Brissett faced these pressure packages, now you can look at my scouting report. I had a bunch of tweets kind of detailing what the game plan was. But when Jacoby Brissett was under center, basically they would either blitz their linebackers or green dog. A green dog is basically if your coverage assignment in man is blocking, that's your go to fire downhill and blitz. So basically it's like, oh, if my guy's blitzing, I'm going to have one more because he's worried about somebody else. You saw a lot of that under center with a lot man coverage on the outside, one-on-one opportunities, Jalen Polk, Tyquan Thornton, Pop Douglas, like that's where you want to see them really shine and get their opportunities and their big plays. And then in obvious passing situations, what you'd see sometimes was either cover 0. So they literally load up the line of scrimmage. They have all of their defensive backs deep, and they're basically like, yeah, just throw it as fast as you can. But they run it like the Patriots, where their cover 0 isn't literally we're sending everyone. Based on where the offensive line slides, if the line slides towards certain players, they'll pop out. Basically, what that does is take away the middle. So what does everybody want to do? Like if you're playing Madden and somebody's playing cover 0, what do you want to do? Hit a slant because it's towards the middle of the field. If you catch
there's no one there. Right.
There's no one there. What that does is I think Jamie Collins has had a few plays off this. You pop out, and if someone wants to just let it out quick over the middle, you're right there. You can bat it down, or you can even pick it off if you're like some kind of freak athlete. But what they'll also do is they'll show cover 0 with a double mug look. So again, like you got all the defenders on the line of scrimmage sometimes, but this will just be the linebackers in the middle. Mm-hmm. They'll rotate to some type of split field zone coverage. And those linebackers are going to pop out into zones, but they'll blitz a cornerback. So you're expecting it to come from one of the 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. Instead, it comes from the corners, which can create confusion because then the tackle's like, do I press down inside? Because basically in pass protection, you don't want someone getting through the middle. You'd rather them have the furthest course to the quarterback so he has time to throw, he can adjust, whatever. So what happened when Jacoby played the Bengals the last time in 2022, he did a really good job against these looks. He was calm, he was poised, the things you expect from Jacoby. He found the open man. The one time he screwed up was when I think Jedrick Wills was supposed to block down, but he blocked outside, and a free rusher got right to Jacoby Brissett. I don't know why, but he was like getting brought down and tried to throw, and then basically it popped out and it wasn't intercepted. I think it was technically a fumble and then a recovery, but it was ugly. But then earlier in the game, he had a similar play where an unblocked rusher came up the middle. He tried to throw to his running back, but the edge rusher peeled with the running back. So he didn't have anyone to throw to. He stopped himself. The throwing motion caught the defender who was blitzing him to jump. He went around that guy and threw a slant to Amari Cooper. Cooper didn't catch it, but the ball was on the money. Mm-hmm. And it's that kind of thing where you want to see more of the latter, where Jacoby Brissett has those answers to the test, where Lou Anarumo is not going to make things easy. He's going to throw different looks. He's going to threaten your offensive line and protection and be like, all right, yeah, you may know what you want to do pre-snap, but post-snap is everyone going to execute the right way. Right. And if they don't, who's going to be able to make the best out of that situation? Jacoby, for the vast majority of the time, is going to get the best play possible, but you need to make sure he also doesn't put the ball in harm's way and try to make plays he shouldn't. Because Jacoby's good about that for the most part. Mayo said, like, he's a good decision maker. He protects the ball. Every once in a while, Jacoby loses his damn mind and will do something where you're just like, dude, no.
He turns into Jameis Winston.
Every once in a while. It doesn't happen very often. And I know in the preseason, there was the interception to Austin Cooper. I've talked about it ad nauseum. That was not his fault. You can blame him for being aggressive. You cannot blame him for being picked because Austin Cooper moved on a play where usually they have good chemistry on. Bottom line is Jacoby needs to protect the ball, keep this offense in positive situations pre-snap, and then if things don't go his way, he's got to make the right decisions and either capitalize if he sees a busted coverage or some opportunity, and if things don't go his way, be able to eat it and move on to live the next down. So Lou Anarumo, very smart, very tricky, but I think Jacoby Brissett is well equipped to handle those pressure schemes. Just got to see it get done.
Well, that's where, again, looking at this through the lens of, okay, how do the Patriots actually pull this off? It's not Jacoby saying F it and being aggressive and trying to make something out of nothing all the time. That's how you lose this game. There is a recipe, and it's protecting the football and offense, being careful and running, getting your offensive production through the run game. And then when you do have to pass, like you mentioned, Jacoby's success, for lack of a better term, against this Anarumo defense and the ability to know and have seen it before, and Van Pelt's ability to have known and seen it before, is what's going to help them find those answers to that test, right? And not only is it throwing into the blitz, but knowing that when you throw into the blitz, they might have someone know that you're going to throw into the blitz and know where the next answer to the test is, and it gets involved there. And I know that
it's a chess match, buddy.
It's a chess match, and they need to be prepared to know that next move and go from there. And again,
and Jacoby even mentioned, remember this week, he was like, yeah, but then even when Deshaun was playing, he watched the film to see what answers the Bengals had for the things that Jacoby did well. So he's no spring chicken. Jacoby knows how this shit works. So he'll be ready.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible though, how that works, because it's how do you get your step ahead when everyone has access to the film when you watch the film, and so we know that they're going to throw here when we see blitz, so now we need to be able to cover that. But there is always an answer. You might just not know the answer, because if someone
having good players is the best answer though.
Yeah, 100%, and but that's not what the Patriots have right now compared to the Bengals. So that's why you need to be on your P's and Q's. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. At the end of the day, I think you're on the money with, again, don't let those guys on offense take over. The Patriots have the horses in the back end to do it. Controlling the line of scrimmage is probably the hardest part here, and that's what's going to be, probably the number one key to the game at the end of the day is the Patriots offensive line. And if that can hold up enough for New England to put some points on the board. And then number three, it's kind of similar in that, having answers to the pressure that the Bengals are going to bring, and having Jacoby not throw picks, don't have penalties, play smart football, because that's sort of the overarching thing. If they don't play smart football and they're not on their P's and Q's and they're not tight on it, they're probably going to lose the game, because those are the little things that have to happen in order for them to win this football game. So
there's a lot of familiarity for the offense. The defense, I'm really not that worried about. I think as long as guys perform the way we expect, the game plan will be good enough and they'll be fine. Van Pelt, Scott Peters, T.C. McCartney, they've seen this Bengals defense multiple times for multiple seasons. There's that, but at the end of the day, the players are going to have to actually be able to execute the game.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's our keys to the game on how the Patriots can upset the Bengals on Sunday night. We're not going to give our predictions here, but we're going to give them in our Friday episodes, which we already recorded with Joe Goodbury of Bengals on the Brain. So you can check that out tomorrow. That's going to come out on Friday. A really fun conversation with him. That's where you can get our predictions, our game picks for the game. But on Thursday, what we're going to do is give our prize picks. So again, I mentioned it in the ad read, and that's kind of it's half scripted, half real. But help us out and head over to PrizePicks and use code CLNS. New users, again, you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. And as I mentioned too, you don't need to win that $5 bet. You just deposit it and then they give you $50 on top. So you can come in, play the PrizePicks. I gave the game the picks from earlier, but we're going to give Patriots picks here too every week, Taylor. So I'm going to find them every week and I'll give you what I'm thinking and you tell me yes or no and your opinion on it. So this week, I'm going to just do 2 because, as I mentioned in the ad read, we can pair the third one with the Caleb Williams over half a passing yard, or more than half a passing yard, which should Caleb Williams more than one half passing yard is one of the picks here. But the other 2, I'm going with T. Higgins more than 57.5 yards. And the reason is there's a chance Chase doesn't play. And even if he does play, I think he's going to have a little bit of a snap count limit. I think they're still going to try and ease him in, even if he is ready. And ultimately, even with Marr Chase in the game, T. Higgins can still go for 60 yards in a game like it's nothing. So I think 57.5 is a low number for him. And I'm going to pick him to go more than that. What do you say?
So he had oh my God. Oh boy. He had 128 yards on 8 catches and a touchdown the last time these teams played, but he was going up against Marcus Jones. I think if we go with my game plan, I'm assuming that my game plan is what they're going to use, where you put Christian Gonzalez on T. Higgins. I really like T. Higgins. Is he going to catch like 60 yards on Gonzo? Because if Chase doesn't play as much, and we still think he's going to play, but if he doesn't play a ton, that just means Gonzo's definitely going to be on T. Higgins.
Fair.
So, and if they don't, maybe they bracket. So yeah, 60's not a ton, and he is still a very good player. That could be like 1 or 2 plays for him. I'm going to go under, though. I'm going to go
okay. And the second pick here, Pop Douglas, more than 38.5 yards. I think Pop, they're going to use him in the game. He's going to be the center of attention on offense, and even if he is, I think he's going to go over 38.5. So you say more. How are they going to use Pop on Sunday? Quick little nugget, what you think before we get out of here.
I think he's going to be one of their answers to man coverage. I think he's going to get some manufactured touches, like we saw him get some screens. Clearly, they want to get the ball in his hands. Maybe even a trick play. Maybe even 2 trick plays.
We'll tell the listeners then our bet. Me and Taylor have a friendly wager. Taylor has an opinion that Alex Van Pelt, week 1, is going to throw the bag at the Cincinnati defense with Lou Anarumo and those guys, and have over 1.5 or more than 1.5 trick plays in the game. I'm taking under. I think they need to be more careful. I think they need to be careful to win this game. But Taylor thinks more than 1.5. I think less than 1.5. So we have a friendly wager on that. So you can keep tabs on that as well and give us crap on it and let us know what you think in the comments too.
And we're going to keep it going next week because they actually did empty the bag, the Browns, last year against the Seahawks. It was one of the coolest game plans I've ever seen. Like, the double pump screen in the middle thing?
Yeah.
They scored on that. Like, it was a wild game plan. So we're going to keep this going next week. But yeah, I think that Pop Douglas, we mentioned this with Joe Goodberry. Mike Hilton's a very good slot corner. I think Demario Douglas's skills, his movement ability, his quickness, his burst, I think they're going to give Hilton a lot of trouble because he's a bigger slot corner. He's not really nimble as much as like a Teron Johnson or, like a Trent McDuffie necessarily, who are still both big guys, but I think that Mike Hilton's a little bit thicker. So I do think that Pop in those man coverage situations is going to be a guy that they go to win those one-on-one matchups. And for him, that's I think he could get a couple explosive plays. And if you do, look at that. You got 40 yards already. So, and again, adding in the manufactured touches, I feel like he's going to get. I could definitely see him exceeding.
All right. So our Patriots Daily Prize Picks, even though Taylor doesn't agree with one of them, is T. Higgins more than 57.5 yards, Pop Douglas more than 38.5 yards, and Caleb Williams over half a passing yard, which is the easiest one on Prize Picks this weekend. You can get that Caleb tile for the entire month of September. So make sure you use it. Download Prize Picks. Use code CLNS. You get $50 when you play $5. You get it instantly. You don't need to win. You just need to deposit $5 and you get 50 on top of it. So again, it helps us out. It helps us out if you like the page. It helps us out if you like the videos, and it helps us out a ton if you go to Prize Picks. Use that code if you're a new customer. Go check it out and have some fun. Having fun on these games with us this year. So Taylor, before we close this out, I know we have our preview on Friday with Joe, but any final thoughts on Patriots Bengals before we wrap it up for the week?
Joey Sly. Let's see what you got, man. Because if this does come down to one possession, maybe it's a field goal kind of game, or maybe the field goals are going to be what makes the difference at one point or another. We saw last season how many times Chad Ryland, RIP in terms of his Patriots career, wasn't able to get them to where they needed to be, whether it was tying games, winning games, what have you. So I think that Joey Sly is going to be an underrated contributor in this game, and maybe even a difference maker. We shall see.
Love it. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here on Patriots Daily today. You have Brian Hines, Alex Barth coming up at 6 p.m. for their Patriots beat preview. What'd you say?
It was good timing.
Yeah, good timing. It's not bad. It's like TV, Taylor. It's kind of like TV over here. But that's going to do it. So make sure to stay on the channel if you want some more. It's not going to be a full crossover, but you can get right into Brian and Alex on Patriots Beat. So Pats versus Bengals on Sunday, going to be a good one. Potential upset for the Pats. We're going to have a pregame show and a postgame show, so make sure you stay locked on the channel. Rate, review, subscribe, do the whole thing. Check out our work at clnsmedia.com. And until Sunday, or Friday rather, but until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you soon. Peace out, y'all. Thanks for watching.